In the diplomatic chambers of Lysara Prime, Ethan Vale stood exactly where every human diplomat tried not to stand. Too close to the throne, too noticeable, too alone. The hall shimmered with crystalline light, refracted through floating prisms that made every movement look ceremonial. The Altari nobles towered around him, their silver-white hair braided with metallic threads, their long, elegant ears tracking every whisper in the room. No one paid attention to Ethan. They rarely did. Compared to the Altari with their bioluminescent markings and ethereal beauty, humans seemed small, soft, unimpressive, and he was perfectly fine with that. Queen Lysara inclined her head slightly as she listened to her advisors argue about border tensions. Her violet eyes flickered occasionally toward Ethan, though he pretended not to notice. She was breathtaking in a way that made people forget titles and crowns. For him, she was worse, because she watched him as if searching for something he didn't want found. When the meeting ended, she spoke without turning. "Human, stay." The chamber emptied. Ethan exhaled slowly. She always waited until they were alone. She approached him with a smooth, gliding step, her voice low enough that it felt like it touched the air rather than traveled through it. "You suggested a peaceful route again. It tends to be the option that leaves fewer corpses," he answered gently, her eyes narrowed. "You fear conflict." He smiled faintly. "I understand it." She studied him, longer than usual. Ethan kept his breathing slow, steady, controlled, but nothing escaped her attention. "You move differently from other humans," she said. "Quieter, as if you are listening to things no one else hears." "Habits," he replied. "Frontier colonies demand awareness." Perhaps she didn't sound convinced. For weeks, their conversations continued, short, private, oddly intimate. She found his calmness disarming, almost soothing. He found her curiosity dangerous. One evening, under the dim glow of the palace gardens, she stopped walking and said something that made Ethan's heart jolt in his chest. "My council expects me to choose a consort soon." He swallowed. "Then, congratulations, I suppose." "I have not chosen." She turned to face him fully. "Because none of them understand me, none listen, a pause, except you." He froze, and she continued softly. "A political bond with a neutral species may help stabilize our border crisis." "Lysara," he whispered, suddenly aware of how close she was standing. "You would refuse me?" she asked quietly. He looked into her eyes, eyes that glowed softly in the night, and felt the weight of everything he'd been trying to hide for years. "It's not about refusal," he said. "It's about truth. Your people would never accept." "I am queen," she said simply. "Acceptance follows decision." He wanted to look away, but she stepped closer and lifted his chin with a single, elegant finger. "Do not lie to me, Ethan Vale." He didn't, but he didn't speak either. A single breeze passed through the gardens, stirring her silver hair. Something flickered behind her gaze, uncertainty, hope, maybe fear. "Tell me," she whispered, "why you feel familiar and yet so veiled." He felt his heartbeat shift, too sudden, too strong, not good. Before he could answer, an alarm blared across the city, deep, resonant, shaking the crystal towers. A guard sprinted toward them. "Your Majesty. Raider vessels, unknown origin, have entered the upper atmosphere. They're targeting the capital district." The sky above them lit with descending fire. Lysara straightened instantly, regal and fierce. "Evacuation Protocol 7. Defend the palace." Ethan didn't move. He watched the falling streaks of light the way a mathematician watches equations, quietly, precisely calculating. Lysara turned sharply. "Ethan, go with the guards." "No," he said softly. A glow reflected in his eyes, golden, sharp, unnervingly calm. The queen felt it in her chest before she understood it. He wasn't afraid. He was assessing. The first impact shook the palace grounds like a living heartbeat. Shards of crystal light broke across the sky, scattering luminous fragments over the gardens. Guards rushed past them in tight formation, weapons drawn, armor glowing with defensive runes. But Ethan didn't move. He watched the falling fire with a focus Lysara had only ever seen in seasoned commanders, never in a quiet diplomat. "Ethan," she repeated, stepping closer, "we must reach the inner chambers, now." He turned his head slightly, not startled, just acknowledging her voice. "They're not bombing the palace." She froze. "What?" His eyes tracked the descending streaks with unnerving precision. "The trajectories, the spacing, they're targeting the outer districts first, hurting civilians inward." Her breath caught. "You can read bombardment patterns." "Only when I need to," he said softly. That made it worse. Another explosion broke across the horizon. The blast wave hit a heartbeat later, scattering petals from the silverleaf trees around them. The guards shouted for the queen, weapons hummed, shields flared. Lysara's voice sharpened. How do you know their strategy? Ethan didn't answer. Instead, he stepped in front of her as debris rained from above, sharp fragments of shattered glassstone that could cut through armor. One shard fell directly toward her face. Ethan's hand rose. He caught it, not slapped it aside, not shielded her. He caught a razor-edged, falling chunk of crystal in midair with 2 fingers. Without even looking at it, Lysara stared at his hand. There was no blood, no strain. Just calm precision. What are you? She whispered. He let the shard fall harmlessly to the ground. Later, a second wave of impacts hit the capital. The sky was now a burning lattice of descending fire, and the palace trembled under the pressure. Guards formed a protective ring around the queen. One of them reached for Ethan. Human, get behind. Ethan didn't move, but his voice changed, still soft, still gentle, but with a resonance the guard immediately obeyed. Stay with your queen, she needs your shields. The guard stiffened, startled, then nodded without understanding why. Lysara did understand. There was command in Ethan's tone, real command, the kind that came from experience, not authority. A distant tower collapsed in a plume of smoke. The night filled with alarms, flashing runes, and shouts from the palace defenses. Lysara, Ethan said, turning to her with eyes that glowed only faintly, like embers awakening. Where is the nearest secure tactical room? She hesitated. Why? Because whoever is attacking didn't launch a raid. He pointed toward the sky. This is a coordinated strike. They know your defenses, they know your response time, and they're not done. How can you be certain? She demanded. Ethan inhaled once, slow, steady, and the diplomat mask slipped just enough to reveal something underneath. I've seen this method before. Her pulse stumbled. Where? Far from here, he said. Far from anything your empire has charted. Before she could question him, a massive blast lit the sky, the kind fired only by capital-grade cannons. The palace shields flickered, noble towers cracked, panic swept the distant districts. Her people were dying. Lysara reached for her communicator. Activate Skywall protocol, all forces regroup. But Ethan gently touched her wrist. Don't give that order. She froze at the contact. Ethan, they're trying to draw your military into a predictable defense pattern, he said quietly. If you respond the way they expect, you'll lose half your fleet by sunrise. She stared at him, disbelief warring with fear. You cannot know that. His eyes met hers, steady, unwavering, too calm. I can. A single shockwave rocked the palace again. Lysara stepped back, studying him as if seeing him for the first time. Her voice was barely audible. You're not a diplomat. Tonight, Ethan said, that's the least important question. He lifted his gaze to the burning sky. They're here for you. A new alarm triggered, lower, deeper, different. A sound she had heard only once before in her life. Palace breach detected, a guard shouted. Ethan's expression hardened. Get behind me. This time, the palace corridor shook again, dust falling from carved stone arches, lights flickering, alarms bleeding into one another. Guards rushed to form defensive lines, shields locked, weapons humming with charged energy. But Ethan was the only one walking toward the danger. Not rushing, not panicking, just moving with a quiet certainty that made every guard glance at him uneasy. Lysara followed close behind, her breath sharp, her mind racing. Ethan, stop, tell me what we're facing. He didn't look back. Strike teams, small, precise. They're bypassing your outer defenses. How do you? A wall to their left exploded inward. 3 figures stepped through the smoke, armored, masked, moving with mechanical precision. Their weapons crackled with plasma coils, military grade, illegal in most of the galaxy. The guards shouted, raising shields. One of the intruders fired. A blast of blue energy roared toward the queen. And Ethan moved. The world seemed to lag for everyone else. He wasn't fast like an athlete. He wasn't quick like a trained soldier. He moved with the terrifying efficiency of someone who had practiced this motion 1,000 times in silence. One step forward, one hand raised, one smooth arc. He caught the energy bolt on his palm. It didn't explode. It didn't burn him. It didn't even push him back. It dissipated in his fingers like harmless light. The guards froze. The attackers hesitated. Lysara forgot how to breathe. Ethan, she whispered. No human can. Stay behind me, he said again, calm enough to be frightening. The intruders recovered quickly. They switched weapons, adjusting formation. One aimed a cutting beam at Ethan's legs. Another prepared a sonic disruptor. The last one deployed a gravnet, designed to immobilize even armored troops. 3 attacks, 3 angles, 3 different weapon systems. Ethan didn't blink. He stepped forward. The gravnet shot toward him. He tilted his head an inch, just enough for it to pass his shoulder and crash into the wall behind him. The cutting beam flashed. Ethan moved his foot half a step, barely a shift, and the beam sliced harmlessly along the floor. The sonic disruptor fired directly into his chest. Lysara screamed his name, but Ethan stood unharmed, brushing dust from his shirt as if annoyed. The attackers hesitated again, but too late. Ethan was already moving. He closed the distance in 3 silent strides. His hands moved with a precision that felt surgical, not violent. A twist of the wrist. A pressure point strike. A downward shift of weight. And the first attacker collapsed. Ethan pivoted smoothly, using the falling body as a shield. The second attacker fired in panic, hitting his own ally instead. Ethan reached the third one, disarmed him with a flick of the fingers, and tapped the side of his helmet. The strike looked gentle. The attacker dropped instantly, unconscious. The hallway fell silent except for the crackling of damaged walls. Ethan exhaled once, slow and measured. The guards stared at him as if trying to understand physics from scratch. Lysara stepped forward, her voice raw. "This is impossible. I've seen elite warriors fight my whole life. You move like a soldier," Ethan finished softly. "No," she said, "not a soldier, something more." Her eyes searched his face, desperate and afraid. "Ethan Vale, what are you hiding from me?" He looked at her for a long moment, long enough for her chest to tighten. Then he said something that sent a chill straight through her bones. Something I hoped you'd never have to see. Before she could ask again, his head turned sharply toward the far end of the corridor. Footsteps, more intruders. But this time, different ones. Heavier, more coordinated, not raiders, not mercenaries, military. Ethan's expression changed, finally, openly, a flicker of something colder. The corridor lights flickered again, this time not from explosions, but from a deliberate power surge. The air pressure shifted, the way it does right before a vacuum seal breaks. The guards tensed, forming a wall around the queen. Ethan didn't join them. He stepped forward alone, eyes fixed on the far end of the hallway. The footsteps grew clearer, heavy, synchronized, metallic, not boots. Exosupport frames, military-grade, Lysara's breath caught. That sound, that pattern, those aren't raiders. Those are professionals, Ethan finished. The first unit stepped through the smoke. Their armor was matte black, segmented, no markings, only a faint red insignia near the collar. Lysara's eyes widened. That emblem, it's from the old border wars. It was banned centuries ago. They're not from your wars, Ethan said. She turned to him sharply. Then where? Lower your voice. She stared at him, stunned. He had never used that tone with her, not even privately. It wasn't disrespectful. It was protective, urgent, absolute. The squad spread into a tactical formation with practiced ease. Their rifles hummed with a frequency Lysara didn't recognize, a frequency that made the back of her skull throb. Their leader stepped forward. His helmet's eye-visor tracked Ethan like he was the target, not the queen. "Stand down," the leader ordered. "Turn over the Altari ruler. We have no quarrel with your species." One of the guards shouted, "Her Majesty is under the Empire's protection. Leave this place or—" The intruder didn't even look at him. He kept his rifle trained on Ethan. Lysara felt her stomach twist. "Why are you aiming at him? He's human. He's a—" "No," the leader said flatly. "He's not." The hallway went silent. Ethan didn't flinch, didn't deny it. Didn't even look surprised. Lysara's heart hammered in her chest. "Explain yourself," she demanded. "What do you think he is?" The leader tilted his head slightly. "Classified asset, high value, off-record operation, retrieval priority." "Maximum retrieval," she echoed. "Ethan Vale is a diplomat, not—" "Ma'am," the soldier said, "that thing hasn't been a diplomat in a very long time." Lysara felt the ground sway. Thing, not man, not human, not soldier thing. She looked at Ethan. His posture had changed, just a fraction, shoulders eased, breath slowed, hands relaxed at his sides, not surrender, not fear, just readiness, like he had been waiting for this exact moment. The soldier continued, "Step aside, this will be quick." Ethan spoke then, softly. "If you touch her, none of you leave this corridor alive." The leader scoffed, "You're 1 against 12. Lysara whispered, "Ethan, don't." He didn't take his eyes off the soldiers. "Please step back, Lysara." His voice, it wasn't the gentle warmth she knew. It wasn't the quiet humility. This was something else. Something ancient in its focus. Something dangerous in its certainty. The leader gave a hand signal. 12 rifles clicked into full charge. Ethan didn't move, but Lysara felt something shift, like the air temperature dropped, like gravity tightened around him, like the hallway itself inhaled. Then, 12 shots fired at once. Blue-white beams converged on Ethan's chest from all directions. The flash lit the corridor. The guards screamed. Lysara reached for him, and when the light faded, Ethan was still standing, completely unharmed. The floor beneath him was scorched. The walls cracked from energy dispersal. The guards were momentarily blinded, but Ethan Vale, the quiet diplomat, the polite human, the gentle presence, hadn't even taken a step back. The soldiers froze. Lysara's body trembled. Ethan, your skin, it's glowing. He glanced at his arm. Faint lines of pale gold light traced beneath the surface, like circuitry under flesh. He inhaled sharply and willed the glow to fade. It dimmed slowly, too slowly. The leader's voice cracked, confirming he's active, he's awakened. Asset is in full state initiation. Ethan finally turned his head, just enough for the soldier to understand the threat. You shouldn't have done that. The leader shouted, deploy fire control restraints. But they didn't get the chance. Ethan moved, not like a human. Not like a soldier, not even like the silent fighter from before. He moved the way a thought moves, instant, precise, unstoppable. In one breath, he crossed the entire corridor. In the next, he tore the leader's rifle from his hands with a twist that shattered the weapon. The intruders barely had time to react. One tried to fire. Ethan disarmed him before the shot even formed. Another reached for a blade. Ethan broke the exoframe at the knee. Two flanked him. He swept them into the wall with a single, fluid motion. It wasn't violence. It was control. Absolute, impossible control. The squad lay defeated within seconds. The hallway filled with smoke, sparks, and stunned silence. Ethan stood in the center, breathing quietly, almost disappointed. Lysara stepped toward him, even though her legs shook beneath her. The corridor fell into a heavy electric silence. The defeated strike team lay crumpled around them, their armor sparking, their weapons shattered. The lights flickered overhead, casting fractured shadows across Ethan's face. Lysara stepped closer, slow, cautious, her pulse loud in her ears. Ethan, she whispered, please tell me the truth. He didn't turn away. He didn't hide behind diplomatic calm. He looked directly at her, finally, fully, and she saw something in his eyes she'd never noticed before. Layers, like his gaze held more than one person, more than one life, more than one purpose. He exhaled. The glow beneath his skin dimmed, settling into a soft ember light. I'm human, he said quietly, but not the kind your empire has met. Her breath caught. You mean an augmented soldier? No, he shook his head. Not created by humans, not trained by them, not anymore. Ethan, what does that mean? He glanced down at one of the fallen soldiers. The Black Ops emblem flickered weakly on the armor, 3 intersecting lines forming a sigil ancient and forbidden. They're not here for you, Ethan said. They're here because of me, because of what I escaped. Escaped, her voice trembled. Ethan, you're frightening me. He stepped closer, gently taking her hand, warm, steady, grounding. You're not in danger because of me, he said softly. You're in danger because someone wants me back. She swallowed. Back where? He hesitated. That alone terrified her. Ethan, please. He held her gaze, expression soft but threaded with something older. My abilities, they weren't gifts. They were not accidents. They were built. Her eyes widened, engineered. Perfected, he corrected quietly. Designed for infiltration, survival, and suppression. Lysara felt a chill crawl down her spine, even as his hand remained warm against hers. How long have you been hiding this? Ethan's jaw tightened. Long enough that I forgot what normal felt like. And you let me think you were just a diplomat, he finished with a small, sad smile. I wanted to be. He looked away then, a rare moment of vulnerability passing through him. I came to your empire to disappear, to live quietly, to help where I could, and for a time it felt real. She stepped closer, unable to stop herself. Ethan. But, he continued, the ones who created me don't lose things. Especially not things built to serve. Lysara's fingers tightened around his. You're not a thing. A flicker of emotion crossed his face. Pain, relief, disbelief. Before he could answer, a faint beep sounded from one of the fallen soldiers' armor. Ethan instantly pulled her behind him. The soldier's helmet visor cracked, projecting a holographic sigil into the air. A voice, cold, synthetic, unmistakably familiar to Ethan, echoed through the hall. Asset 17. You have violated containment protocols. Lysara stiffened. Asset. Ethan didn't respond. You have eluded retrieval for 217 cycles, the disembodied voice continued. Your unauthorized interaction with external sovereignties has been noted. Consequences are imminent. Lysara whispered, "Who is that?" Ethan's jaw clenched. "Someone who thinks they own me." The holographic sigil expanded, showing a stylized insignia, an abstract sun with a shattered core. Lysara's eyes widened. "That symbol, I've seen fragments of it in ancient war archives, pre-Union conflicts." Far outside mapped space. Ethan said nothing. Lysara turned toward him, her voice breaking. "Ethan, were you created by them?" The hollow voice continued, ignoring her. "Your queen is irrelevant. Your planet is irrelevant. Your affection for this species is irrelevant. You will comply." Lysara froze. Affection. Ethan closed his eyes, exhaling slowly. Enough. He reached into the projection, his fingers disrupting the interface, and crushed the emitter in his hand. Sparks died, the hologram vanished. Silence returned. Lysara took a shaky breath. "Ethan, what affection? What did they mean?" He opened his eyes and something in them softened, something heartbreakingly human. "You already know," he whispered. Her throat tightened. Before she could speak, Ethan's head snapped up. His pupils narrowed. "More incoming," he said sharply. "Much larger signatures, dropships, multiple." "How many?" He listened to something she couldn't hear, like distant thunder in his bones. "A battalion." Lysara's breath stuttered. "For me." "For me," he corrected. "They want to remove your empire from the equation." "How?" she demanded. Ethan turned to her, voice firm, calm, absolute. "By ensuring I have nothing left to protect." Her heartbeat surged. "Ethan." He took her hands, his touch firm. "Lysara, listen." She looked up at him, fear and something else burning in her gaze. "I don't know if I can stop them alone," Ethan admitted. "Not without revealing everything." "Then reveal it," she whispered. He shook his head. "Once I do, there's no going back. You won't see me the same way." She stepped closer, her voice steady despite the tremor in her chest. "Let me decide how I see you." Ethan stared at her, stunned, shaken, unguarded. Then, the palace walls shook again. A deep, thunderous the palace trembled again, this time with a sound no one in Altari history had ever heard. A deep, resonant thrum, like mountains shifting, like metal bending under impossible pressure. Lysara staggered, bracing herself against a cracked pillar. Ethan didn't stagger. He turned his head slightly, listening with unnatural focus, the glow beneath his skin faint but growing. "They've deployed breacher suits," he said. "Breacher what?" Lysara asked, breathless. "Siege units." Ethan's voice darkened. "Designed to tear through fortified structures, Altari defenses won't stop them." Another impact hit the palace gates. This one so powerful the floor beneath them rippled like water. Lysara looked around, horrified. "We need to evacuate." "No," Ethan said softly. "You leave now, they'll target the escape route. They won't risk you surviving. They want me isolated." Her heart twisted painfully. Why you?" He didn't answer. He simply turned toward the shattered doorway of the corridor. The glow under his skin intensified, spreading down his arms, outlining his spine. Not bright, not uncontrollable, controlled, directed. A quiet storm waiting for permission. "Ethan," she whispered, stepping toward him, "whatever you are, I'm not afraid." He stopped. Slowly, he looked back at her. "You should be." Before she could respond, the far end of the palace exploded inward. Stone, crystal, and armored plating burst outward in a violent spray. From the smoke stepped a figure twice the height of a man, encased in heavy, angular armor, black as void, moving with brutal purpose. A visor glowed along its faceplate like a single red, cutting eye. Lysara gasped. "What is?" "A Titan," Ethan said. "They sent a Titan to capture me." The Titan scanned the room with a deep, oscillating growl. Its targeting systems locked instantly onto Ethan and only Ethan. The machine lifted one massive arm, energy built in its palm, glowing with pale blue death. Lysara shouted, "Ethan, run." He didn't. He stepped forward. "Stay behind me," he said again. The Titan fired. The world turned white. A beam of destructive force roared down the corridor, obliterating stone, metal, and air itself. Lysara shielded her face, expecting impact, heat, death. But nothing touched her. Slowly, she lowered her hand, and her breath escaped her in a broken gasp. Ethan stood in front of her, holding the beam. His arm raised, palm forward, fingers splayed, catching it. The Titan poured more power into the blast. The floor melted beneath Ethan's feet. Walls split. Light carved through the air with a scream. But Ethan didn't move. His skin glowed brighter, lines of gold pulsing with each heartbeat, weaving through muscle like living circuitry. He turned his wrist just slightly. The beam fractured like glass. Lysara choked on a sound. Ethan, he spoke without looking back. Now you see why I hid. The Titan roared and charged, metal limbs tearing gouges in the floor. It swung a massive arm toward him with the force of a collapsing star. Ethan's hand closed around the Titan's wrist. Metal screeched. The Titan stopped mid-swing, frozen, trapped in Ethan's grip. Lysara stared as Ethan's eyes brightened, glowing faintly gold, not human glow. Not Altari bioluminescence, something older, something engineered. With a single motion, smooth, almost gentle, Ethan twisted. The Titan's arm sheared off cleanly, crashing to the floor like a fallen tree. The machine staggered, sparks spraying from the severed joint. Ethan stepped forward with unhurried calm. He placed his hand on the center of the Titan's chest. "Power down," he commanded quietly. The armor vibrated, systems screaming in resistance. Ethan's voice deepened, not louder but heavier. Command layered with something that felt like authority coded into his bones. "I said power down." The Titan's lights flickered, then died. The massive machine collapsed at Ethan's feet, smoking and lifeless. Silence filled the ruined hallway. Lysara stared at him, trembling. "You," her voice broke. "This is not human technology, not human strength, not human anything." Ethan finally turned. His expression was soft, painful, almost apologetic. "I never wanted you to see this side of me." She took a shaky step toward him. "Ethan, what are you made of? Who made you?" He opened his mouth, but the palace shook again. A deep, thunderous sound echoed through the halls, not an explosion, something worse, a voice, projected through the entire structure. Cold, mechanical, and unmistakably directed at Ethan. "Asset 17. Core signature confirmed. Full retrieval protocol initiated." Lysara stiffened. "There are more coming." Ethan closed his eyes. "Yes. How many?" He listened again. Beyond normal hearing, beyond normal senses. Then the palace shook so violently that dust fell like gray snowfall from the shattered ceiling. Ethan held Lysara close as he moved through the collapsing corridor. His steps steady even as entire sections of the structure buckled beneath them. "Ethan, where are you taking me?" she whispered into his shoulder. "Somewhere they can't track us, somewhere I can talk without the walls listening." Every corner they turned, the lights flickered. Every impact echoed through the stone like a warning. Yet Ethan's grip around her was gentle, careful, almost reverent. He wasn't carrying her like a soldier evacuating a VIP. He was holding her like someone he couldn't afford to lose. They reached a concealed doorway behind a fallen statue. Ethan pressed his palm against a smooth metal panel, one Lysara had never seen before. Golden lines lit beneath his skin. The door unlocked. She stared, breath catching. "That's not Altari tech." "It's not," Ethan said quietly. "It's mine." The door slid open to reveal a narrow chamber, dark, sealed, silent. Once inside, Ethan set her down and closed the panel. The noise of the battle outside vanished. Only their breathing remained. Lysara stepped back, studying him. "Now," she said softly, "tell me what you are." Ethan didn't answer immediately. He ran a hand through his hair, grounding himself. The faint golden glow beneath his skin dimmed, but didn't disappear. "I told you I'm human," he began. "Yes," she said, "but not fully." He met her eyes. "Not anymore." Lysara's pulse stuttered. "Explain." Ethan exhaled slowly. "There was a program outside your mapped space. A research cluster, human scientists and others. They wanted to build a hybrid intelligence, something with human intuition, but not limited by human biology." Her brows drew together. "Hybrid with what?" His jaw tightened. "With a captured machine intelligence from a fallen empire." A chill crawled down her spine. "The shattered sun's sigil." Ethan nodded. "Their emblem." She pressed a hand to her chest. "Ethan, that empire wasn't just ancient, it was feared. Some records say they didn't create machines, they harvested them." "They harvested me," Ethan whispered. Her breath stopped. He continued, voice low but steady. "I was one of the few who survived the integration process. My body stayed human, my mind didn't." Lysara covered her mouth, eyes burning. "So you escaped, they want their creation back." "No," Ethan stepped closer. "I wasn't their creation, I was their weapon. And when they tried to complete the final stage, I ran." Her voice trembled. "Ethan, why come here to my world?" His expression softened, painful, human, real. "Because your galaxy is peaceful. Because I thought I could disappear. Because your people value compassion more than conquest." He paused, "And because when I first saw you, I felt something I wasn't supposed to feel." Lysara's breath shivered. "What did you feel?" That I'd finally found someone who saw me as more than what I was built to be. Silence filled the chamber, heavy, fragile, intimate. Lysara stepped forward, placing her hand on his cheek. The golden lines beneath his skin pulsed faintly under her touch. "You're not a weapon to me," she whispered. His eyes closed for a moment, as if those words hurt and healed him at the same time. But then, a distant vibration hummed through the sealed chamber. Ethan's eyes snapped open. Lysara's hand fell from his cheek. "They've found us," he said. "They brought a tracker." Her voice tightened. "Can you stop them?" He looked toward the sealed door, listening to something she couldn't hear. "Yes," he said, "but if I do, there will be no hiding what I truly am." Lysara swallowed. "Then let me see." Ethan turned to her, expression torn. "I don't want you to fear me." She shook her head. "I fear losing you far more." Something in him broke quietly, silently. Golden light flared beneath his skin. "All right," he whispered. He reached for the door. Outside, something enormous struck the palace foundation, hard enough to crack stone. Ethan placed his hand on the metal surface. "Lysara," he said, "stay behind me, no matter what you see." The glow along his spine brightened, spreading like dawn break. The melted doorway hissed with fading heat as Ethan stepped out into the ruined main hall. Smoke drifted in slow waves. Cracked crystal pillars threw fractured reflections of firelight across the floor. The once bright palace of Lysara Prime now looked like the rib cage of a wounded giant. Lysara followed, breath held, though she stayed behind him as he had asked. And she saw it, saw him. Ethan's skin glowed in threaded lines, not bright, not chaotic, but controlled. The golden pathways pulsed down his arms and spine, weaving under his skin like living circuits. His eyes, they were no longer just human amber. They had depth now, depth like a star held behind bone. Her footsteps faltered. He sensed it immediately. "Lysara," he said softly, "don't step back." She hadn't realized she had. Her chest tightened. I'm not afraid." But Ethan's expression told her he already knew the truth. She wasn't afraid of him. She was afraid of what he must have endured to become this. Before she could speak, the air changed. A low, mechanical hum vibrated through the hall. Lights flickered, holographic static rippled between fallen pillars. Then, a towering figure materialized at the far end of the chamber. Black armor, silver joints, a single vertical eye visor of red light. But this one was bigger than the Titan, taller, sharper, intelligent. A cold voice spoke through its chest plate. "Asset 17, full activation detected." Lysara's hand flew to her mouth. "This one, it's different." Ethan didn't move. "It's a command unit." The machine stepped forward. Its steps were silent, not heavy like the Titan, but deliberate, measured, like a predator analyzing its prey. "You have compromised Protocol 9, it said. "Ceasing your existence is now permitted." Ethan glanced back at Lysara. The golden glow along his jaw brightened. "Stay behind me," he said again, but this time his voice held something else, regret. The command unit tilted its head as if studying him. "Your emotional deviation has exceeded acceptable parameters." Lysara stiffened. Emotional deviation. The machine's visor flared. "You formed a bond with the Altari Queen." Statistical analysis. Irrational, counterproductive, evidence of system corruption. Lysara stepped forward despite herself. "He is not corrupted." The machine's voice sharpened. "You will remain silent." Ethan's glow spiked, bright and sudden. "Talk to her like that again," he said quietly, "and I'll dismantle you down to your last line of code." The command unit paused, then its tone changed, lower, almost curious. "Your protective response confirms contamination." Lysara blinked. "Is that what you think he is, contaminated?" "Yes," the machine answered. "His emotional matrix has been altered by prolonged interaction with your species. He is no longer compliant." Ethan's jaw clenched. "Good." The machine took another step. "Return to containment, Asset 17. You cannot protect her. You cannot protect this world." Lysara's voice shook. Why would you attack us? We are not your enemy." "You are irrelevant," the machine said simply. "Removing you destabilizes the asset. Removing him neutralizes the threat." Ethan whispered, "Lysara, don't listen to it." The machine continued. "Your world will be erased so the asset has nothing left to defend." Lysara's knees weakened. Her breath broke. Ethan stepped closer, too quickly for her to see, just enough for her to feel the heat of his glow. "They won't touch your world," he said. "I won't allow it." She reached up, fingers trembling, brushing the golden lines on his cheek. They were warm, warmer than human skin should be. Her voice cracked. Why risk yourself for us?" For me, he closed his eyes. When I came here, he said, I didn't know what living meant. I had memories, but not a life. I had a body, but not a purpose. You changed that. You gave me something I didn't think I could have. He opened his eyes again, gold burning softly behind amber. You gave me a reason to stay, a reason to fight, a reason to be human. Her chest tightened painfully. Ethan, he placed his forehead against hers for a single, fragile second. A moment that felt stolen from a future they weren't guaranteed to have. Then he turned away from her, facing the command unit alone. The machine raised an arm. Energy built white-hot, humming lethal. Asset final warning. Ethan inhaled. The golden glow surged, flooding his arms, his spine, his eyes. No, he said softly. No more warnings. He stepped forward. As the machine fired, the palace exploded with blinding light. The blast swallowed the entire hall in white fire. Pillars disintegrated. Stone vaporized. Shockwaves rippled through the palace like the heartbeat of a dying star. When the light faded, Lysara blinked through the haze. And froze. Ethan was still standing. Energy spiraled across his body like molten gold, bending around him, warping through him. The command unit's attack, meant to level a city, had been absorbed into a shimmering field of distorted space around his form. Ethan exhaled, and the field collapsed into him like a breath returning home. Lysara whispered, trembling, You absorbed it. Ethan didn't respond. He stepped forward. Where his foot touched the cracked floor, golden veins spread, like the palace itself obeyed his presence. The command unit recalculated instantly. Asset capability exceeds previous projections, it announced. Threat level critical. Ethan continued walking. No stance, no weapon, just inevitability. The machine fired again, multiple beams, rapid, weaving, lethal. Ethan raised his hand. The air warped. The attacks bent in midair, curving around him, striking the walls instead. Lysara gasped. He's controlling the vectors. The command unit tried again, missiles this time arcing overhead. Ethan flicked 2 fingers. The missiles reversed mid-flight and slammed into the machine's chest, tearing armor from its frame. Sparks rained down. The machine staggered. Unacceptable, it growled. You were built to obey. Ethan's voice was low. I was built to survive. There's a difference. The machine lunged, swinging an arm thick enough to crush a grav shield. Ethan caught it. Not with strain, not with effort, with certainty. The golden glow along his spine brightened, flooding through his arms. He tore the arm free. The machine screamed in a static burst. You cannot win, more units are approaching. I know, Ethan said. He stepped closer. You're not my fight anymore. The command unit tried to retreat, legs failing, systems crashing. But Ethan placed his hand over its core. A golden pulse surged through his palm, sinking into the machine like sunlight-piercing metal. The command unit froze. Then, its red visor dimmed. Its voice cracked into silence. Ethan let the machine slump to the floor, lifeless. The battle was over, but Ethan's glow didn't fade. Lysara stepped forward slowly, heart pounding. Ethan, look at me. He did, and she saw it. The power wasn't settling. It was rising, growing, uncontained. Ethan, your skin, your eyes, they're overheating, she whispered. Ethan placed a hand against the cracked wall, steadying himself. I used too much. The systems inside me, they're waking up. Can you stop it? No, fear pierced her heart. What happens when they fully activate? He met her eyes. I won't be me anymore. Her world shattered. Then shut it down, suppress it. I can't. His voice broke the slightest bit. This is the final stage they tried to force on me. Full integration, pure synthesis. No human mind survives it. Lysara shook her head fiercely, grabbing his arm. No, Ethan, listen to me. He stepped closer, cupping her face with a trembling golden hand. You're the reason I lasted this long. Her breath broke. You taught me how to choose, how to think beyond programming, how to feel. Without you, I would have activated years ago. Her eyes filled with tears. Then stay with me, don't go fight it. He smiled, gentle, soft, painfully human. I'm trying. The palace rumble deepened. Outside, the sky cracked with light as more ships descended. Not attack ships, extraction ships. The enemy had realized they were losing their weapon. Lysara, he whispered, you have to leave. No, she whispered back, voice shaking. I'm not leaving you. Ethan's glow flickered, gold turning white-hot. Lysara. He leaned his forehead to hers. Thank you for giving me a life. For giving me something to love. Her breath caught in a sob. Don't say goodbye. I'm not. He pressed his glowing palm to the ruined floor. I'm making sure you live. The ground lit with white gold patterns, spreading like a sunrise trapped beneath the palace. Lysara's eyes widened. "Ethan, what are you doing?" "Redirecting the activation energy," he said, voice strained, light bursting from his skin. "If I release it into the structure instead of myself, it won't destroy me." "But it will destroy the palace." "Not the palace." He pulled her into his arms. "Just the invaders." A deep hum rose, vibrating through the foundations, shaking the air, the sky, the entire planet. Outside, the descending ship stalled, glowed, broke apart midair like glass shattering in slow motion. The glow drained from Ethan's skin in a rush, leaving him breathless, trembling, human again. He collapsed. Lysara caught him before his head hit the stone. "Ethan, Ethan." Her voice cracked, his eyes fluttered open, soft amber, human amber. "It worked," he whispered. She pulled him into her arms, shaking. "You idiot, you impossible, stubborn idiot." He smiled weakly. "You're crying." "I almost lost you," she sobbed. "But you didn't." The palace shook one last time, then stilled. Silence. No more invaders, no more ships, no more commands, no more voices calling him asset. Just Ethan, just Lysara. Just breath and heartbeat and warmth. She held his face between her hands. "Are you still you?" He rested his forehead against hers. "I am," he whispered, "because you're here." Her tears...
Ahora regreso a con los orcos.
Cualquier cosa, ya te estaba echando.
Sí, güey, dijo, no tengo nada en contra de los orcos, pero que chinguen a su madre, así me dijo el vato, güey. Ay, no, güey. Esas son las misiones secundarias, güey, literalmente. Pedir fotos o hacer cosas, güey. Como el de la bebida, güey, el del shot. No, la turbochela, güey. ¿Sí me tomo otra turbochela ya? Y otro león. Otro león. Y hay más cartas de Pokémon, güey. Ahorita buscamos.
¿Hizo algún famoso fuera?
¿Famoso aquí dentro? Pues no que yo sepa.